It dawned on me that sometimes you don't need to have everything figured out for you to start or for you to do that thing that you want to do. I started this podcast in 2023, but I had the idea of starting this podcast. And now everything that I've been saying I want to do, this is the perfect weather, this is the perfect situation, this is the perfect person who has called me. Sometimes it is not that way. So if you wait for perfect times, perfect weather, perfect whatever situations, sometimes you may never actually get to step out of your comfort. So sometimes it is not always about the platforms, it is not always about, the stages and the spaces that you want to be. Wherever you are, you can be able to maximize. Welcome back to yet another season of the Make It Easy podcast. My name is Shalom Meni and this is the Make It Easy podcast. Oh my God, I am super excited to be back. I know you're also excited to be back. It has been a long time coming. I think the last episode we dropped was last year, or 2024 in October. That was episode 10. And we've taken a long break. But we are back, guys. We are sorry. I've had you, nimerudi, and I am not going away again. I am back and I'm super happy to be here, as I've said. First of all, I hope you had a good crossover of this year and that your year started out on a great note and that you are accomplishing or you're doing that which you said you're going to do this year. I hope the month of February has started out well. For me, it sort of feels like February is like the real happy new year for me, January kind of felt like a trial month. I don't know who felt or feels that way. But for me, January was kind of, we were easing into the year. But right now, I think I found my footing and I'm very, very, very ready for 2025. Secondly, I'd like to give my gratitude to you guys who voted for me last year. You remember I was part of competition, the PodQuest 2024 Awards by Youth Plus Africa, and we won the People's Choice Awards because of you guys, your votes, and I am super grateful and super happy, and I cannot wait for what is to come, especially this year. And I hope that this will be a beautiful season and year for you and I and all of us. Yeah, so let's get right into it. So this is season 3. We are back. And I know you're wondering, mbona hauna guest Shalom? Today, I just decided to be me and you guys. So today's episode will be kind of a very short one, I think. That's what I always see. Then I end up talking for 30 minutes. But this one will be short, I promise. The whole idea behind this is to just let you know what we have planned for you this year and what we want to achieve by the end of this season or this year. This season, we have a theme for this season. And for those who have been OGs, in this space, we've done 2 seasons, but we didn't really have a theme for the podcast. Well, our theme is making it easy. That is our standard theme. We're having conversations around everything centered around young people, just to try and unpack them, making them easier for you, because as we say, everything is doable. We just have to find a way to do it. So this season particularly, we have a theme, and our theme for this season is maximize. Well, if for those people who know me, I tend to, throw around the word maximize a little bit too much. But yeah, of late, for a few months or maybe a year now, it has been something that I have been getting to think about more, a little bit too much. And with time, as the year progresses, I'll get to share more of that. But that aside, our theme for this season is maximize. And I know you're wondering, Shalom, so we'll be talking about maximize. It will be like, you see the way you go to, like maybe in school, there's this topic you're doing and that's the same thing that you'll keep on doing over and over and over and over again. It will not really feel monotonous, but we'll be having different conversations around different things. But our main aim or our main agenda of the conversation will be to know how to maximize it. And I'll tell you why maximize is quite a thing I say a lot, or a thing that is dear to me. Can a word be dear to you? I think it can. So maximize. Why have I chosen why have I chosen maximize as a theme for Make It Easy this season? I think over time, probably in 2022, I have been feeling, I still do at this point, but I have been feeling like I can always do better, I can always be better, and that I need something in order to get to do whatever I want. I don't know whether that is you back at home, but for me, I tend to feel like there's always something. Like, for example, if I want to do something, I'll always find ways or find reasons to tell me, no, you need something else so that you can be able to do this thing that you want to do. So that has been me for the better part of the last couple of years. And as of last year, as I was thinking about it, it dawned on me that sometimes you don't need to have everything figured out for you to start or for you to do that thing that you want to do. And so that is the reason behind this theme, just to get to share with you my thoughts about maximizing it, and also to get to hear what other people, the guests that we'll be having on this podcast, on the set, to get to hear their thoughts about it. So why did I choose maximize? I think a practical example. I remember, I think I've said this story way too many times, but tadum taisikia tu. So I started this podcast in 2023, but I had the idea of starting this podcast in 2022. Well, in 2022, I had the idea, you know what, I want to do a podcast. I realized I've always known I love speaking, but in 2022 is when I thought maybe I can start a thing of my own. And you know, when I thought about starting a podcast, it seemed like, Shalom, utaweza, like, will you really be able to do a podcast? So 2022, that whole year, ikaisha, and I was like, okay, let's try again next year. It was part of my goals for 2023. Of course, I didn't start it in January. I started this podcast in August. Yes, in August. That is when I decided, okay, sawa. And it was actually a push by some of my friends who are like, Shalom, you've been saying you want to do a podcast every now and then, so you'll start it. And I'm like, I don't have this. There's so many things that are missing in this puzzle for me to start a podcast. So I need to have everything figured out. Like, I need to know, But then my friends are like, you know what, Shalom, start. So we started the podcast in 2023. And anyway, like, when I think back, when I was starting Make It Easy, that was not really the idea. Like, the way I was just doing it, it felt like there can always be something more. There can always be something more to this, And over time, I'm starting to see like, this is what I envisioned when I thought of starting a podcast. Like, the way I'm doing it right now, this is what I had in mind. But I'm thinking, if in 2023 I said, Shalom, let's wait for which year, whatever year that, God knows when, and let's wait for that year to start that podcast, I don't think that Make It Easy would have been where it is right now. So why maximize again? This is just to tell you that sometimes we don't have to have everything figured out. I know this is something I've kept on saying over and over again, but I'll keep on repeating because lazima, it has to sink, guys. It has to sink. I was watching an Instagram story today, and that person was saying the way sometimes we want to do so many things. Like, there's so many things we want to do. We have said we want to do these things. But the reason why we are piling them together is because we are so afraid to actually pick one thing and start doing. So, like, for example, you want to say, I want to do business idea A. I say, sawa, this is what I want to do. Then you see something else and you're like, maybe I should do business idea B. You put it in the side, you shelf that idea. Then you say, maybe C. Whatever number of ideas you have like a stack of ideas waiting for you to do them. But the reason why you actually are not doing any of this is not because you are trying to find the perfect one, it's because you are too afraid to start. So that person was like, sometimes it takes, you coming out of your comfort zone and say, let me do it. What's the worst that can happen? Like, what's the worst that can happen? Just make that bold step and, get to do that which you want to do. So I think that is the message I want to drive this season. That is the message I want to drive throughout this year, maybe. That sometimes I know that we have so many goals. I personally have so many goals and plans for this year. But sometimes you don't have to wait for the perfect weather. I think there's even a verse in the Bible, I forget, that you don't have to wait for, the perfect time. Like just the Bible, in the book of Ecclesiastes, it says that you should, what does it say? I promise I know my Bible, I promise. It says the way, or cast your net in many waters. I forget that verse. I'll put it right here. Cast your net in many waters. Like, you never know what is out there for you to get. So you only, what you need to do is to take that bold step and actually go and do that one thing that you want to do. There's no day you will wake up and say, hey, and everything that I've been saying I want to do, this is the perfect weather, this is the perfect situation, this is the perfect person who has called me. Sometimes it is not that way. So if you wait for perfect times, perfect weather, perfect whatever situations, sometimes you may never actually get to step out of your comfort zone. And I think one of the things that, when I think back, one of the reasons that has made me maybe not maximize, I don't want to say minimize, because not minimize, yeah. One of the things that has made me not maximize my potential or whatever God has placed in me is because I always feel like there's someone who can do it better than me. And yesterday in church, well, for you it will be 4 days ago. Yesterday in church, our pastor was preaching about the sermon of the title of the sermon was "We Are Called for More," and he was just saying the way, sometimes we tend to think that only the people who have been called, like for example in a church setting, only the people who have been called, like the pastor and whoever, those are the only people who are ideal to serve. Like you think of yourself like, I'm just a congregant, there's nothing I can do in this place. But our pastor was saying that in every space that we are called, that is what God has stewarded you with. And whatever space, can be your family, can be your company, can be within your friends, like that is the space God has called you to. So sometimes I used to think, I still fight this feeling and thought I'm praying it goes away. Sometimes I've felt like I need certain platforms, or I need certain people in my life, or I need to be a certain place for me to be worth listening to, for me to be worth, talking or telling someone something. And over time I've come to learn that even in this space that God has given me, even in this platform, because now this is where God has called me to, even in this platform, Make It Easy, this is where God has called me to. And who God wants to listen to this message, he will drive him or her to this place. So sometimes it is not always about the platforms, it is not always about, the stages and the spaces that you want to be. Wherever you are, you can be able to maximize it. You don't need to be, a certain CEO or whatever. Whatever place God has placed you is where God wants you to be, and that is where he wants you to be a representation of his kingdom. So that is one of the fears that I have been having. I still have, but I'm trying each and every day. I tell myself, and I think this also stems out from imposter syndrome, because we were having our last conversation about imposter syndrome with Nyawira, and if you have not checked it out, please go and check the last episode we did. That Nyawira was saying that sometimes we doubt ourselves and we forget that God is the one who has called you into that space. So if God has seen you fit to be his representation in that space, if God has seen you fit to be a representation in that company, in that church, in that school, in that office, then who are you to doubt yourself? The minute you doubt yourself, it's as if you're telling God, I think you made a mistake. And I don't think God ever makes mistakes. So my prayer and my hope is that even as we continue doing life, even as we continue with the year, that we will get to understand that in whatever space God has called us, we are called to maximize, we are called to be the fullest representation of who God is, that we are called to not just be people who sit at, thinking that we need platforms, we need this and this for us to achieve what we want, but that place that God has called you, you are enough, and you are going to share or going to be a representation of his kingdom. So I had another question here that really made me think. Let me read it and we can answer it together. Well, I can answer it alone. So, all right. About mindset. So the question is, what mindset mindset shift. What mindset shift is necessary to embrace growth and make most of what's available? I think sometimes, or most times, we tend to think of ourselves less than what God has called us to, and that is something that most of us, if not all of us, have experienced. I have experienced that. I still experience that. But one of the different ways that I tend to think of it is that when God has called me into a place, He ideally does not want me to conform to that place. What He wants is for me to go there, stand out, and be what He wants me to be in that space. So I think constantly thinking about, it's very hard, but I may look like, Shalom is well put, Shalom. So I do struggle sometimes, but what has kept me going, or what has probably made me change how I think, is that it is God who has actually called me. So if God has called me, what do you think? Whatever you think about me is is not valid. So if God has called me to this space, I am very qualified and I am very ready and able to be a representation of His kingdom. So that will be our conversation. That will be the drive of our season, of this season, season 3. And I pray that this will get to bless you. I pray that this will get to make you feel inspired and be a blessing to you, and that will continue making it easy together, because I don't have everything figured out. I said that, and that's where you come in. So I'd also like to hear what are your thoughts on this. What do you think? How best can you think we can maximize it? And I'm sure that even as we delve into the conversations that you plan to have this year, this season, that you will get to find answers to whatever situations, to whatever things that you may be going through, and that you will know how to maximize it. I think if there's anything I want you to get from this video, is that if God has called you to that space, then go. Like, it does not matter who you feel needs to be by your side. If God has called you, then mama, let's go, let's do whatever God has called us to do. Because in the end, as I always say, we will be judged. We will be, everyone will be held accountable to whatever gift. Can you imagine, when our time here is said and done, and then you get to see who God had destined you to be, and that you get to realize that you didn't even live half of what God had planned for you. I think that will be the most disappointing and depressing feeling to ever exist. And I pray that that will not be any of us. That will not be our portion, that we are going to live up to what God has called us to be, and even do more. So that was it. I think this, I kept my word. This is a very short episode, and I cannot wait for you to listen to whatever you have installed for you. I saw your feedback about who you want us to have, the kind of conversations you want to listen to, and I promise you are in for a treat. So that's it for today. I hope you have an amazing day, an amazing afternoon, an amazing evening. Subscribe if you haven't. Please subscribe. Please subscribe. And also this season we'll be having a couple of giveaways. So stay tuned. Follow us on Instagram if you haven't. Make sure the podcast on TikTok. And I guess I'll see you next week. Bye.